The front is the embodiment, the personification of fine, okay, mediocre. I hate to say the word because mediocre has negative connotations. Is that the word I'm looking for? It has like a vibe, this negative vibe when people say mediocre, and for good reason. Because I mean, I can't really think of an example where someone deliberately sets out to make something mediocre, right? Normally, typically, someone would want to make something exceptional, something of great high quality. So I don't think there's anything high quality about the front. And I know that sounds mean, but I really don't mean it that way. It has all of the tropes of a survival crafting open world game, and it does them pretty well. And that could be, its gift and its curse, right? The fact that, it even has some elements of Ark and other games. And this could be a good thing, but it also could be a bad thing, right? Because when you play it safe, it's like, okay, the game is enjoyable enough, but it's never going to become great because there's no innovation, there's no new ideas. There's there's systems and mechanics in place in this game that are done better in other games. So you start to ask yourself, I'll just rather play that. And to be perfectly honest with you, there's been times when I'm playing the front and I'm thinking like I'd rather be playing 7 Days to Die. And look, I know I'm being hard on this game, and I really don't mean to, because it's hard to compare. Sorry, not hard, but it's unfair to compare something like the front to 7 Days to Die, because 7 Days to Die has been cooking for God, what, fucking 10 years, something along those lines. While the front, October 11, 2023. So just barely over a year this game has been cooking. So it's not fair, right? It's not fair to say like, oh, this game, it doesn't hold a candle to 7 Days to Die. Of course it doesn't. It's just been born, right? So 7 Days to Die. Oh shit, I won't know now because it came out of early access until 1.0 release, and whenever a game does that, it uses the Steam page uses the date of when that game became 1.0. So in this case, 7 Days to Die became 1.0 on July 25th, 2024. So wow, overwhelmingly positive. That's about right. It's a fucking awesome game. But this game's been in development for quite a while. I believe it's somewhere along the lines of like 10 years, or something close to that, maybe 7, maybe 11. And I mean, I don't think it's so much trying to be like 7 Days to Die, although, you know what? I take that back because I'm speaking about the standard mode. If awesome, there's a dude blowing the leaves right now. As soon as I started talking to you guys, I swear this is like the second time this happened. It's like it's 3 o'clock in the afternoon, brother. Oh, look, if you hear this guy, I'm sorry, but he's actually distracting because it's hard for me to think when this noise is just buzzing to the left of me. So give me 1 second. All right, I had to pause this video for a couple of minutes until the leaf blower guy left. Dude's just doing his job, man. I'm still pisses me off though because I'm selfish apparently. I guess I was talking about, I don't quite remember, but I think I was talking about how, it's not fair to compare the front to a much more finished and polished product like 7 Days to Die or even Ark, like I said earlier, because there are some mechanics and elements of Ark in this game. Overall, it's super enjoyable, and right now, currently on the Steam Winter Sale, it's available for like $8, which is a fucking steal because it's got, like I said, all the tropes of survival games. It's got a pretty deep crafting system, a little convoluted at times. Some of it is nonsensical. Like sometimes, you would unlock certain things before other things. And what I mean is like usually there's like some sort of rhythm when it comes to these type of games, and it's like, oh, I won't be able to craft steel stuff first. It'll be wood stuff. You kind of work your way up from like the lesser material to the greater material. But in this game, it's a lot like that. But there are some weapons and some armor where you're like, why am I unlocking this before this? That's what I meant. Um, I could get nitpicky with you, and it's very easy to, but concern not concerning, but like I have to keep in mind that this isn't a finished product, right? And honestly, even when it comes out of 1.0, it's still not a finished product, right? Look at 7 Days to Die. There's a huge update coming in January, and it's like, these games never stop cooking. At least these big, giant, well-known games, like not so much like the front, but like 7 Days to Die, and let's say Valheim or Project Zomboid. These games seem like they've just been just racking up new content over the years. Oh no, the guy's back. So I guess I guess what I'm saying is that it's totally worth a buy, right? Because here we go. Give me 1 second. For $8, you have nothing to lose. That's what I'm saying. And if you are a survival crafting open world buff, you would enjoy this game. You would. For how long? That's the problem here, right? Because when you buy a game that's an open world survival craft, it's safe to assume that you're going to spend quite a large amount of time playing games like this, especially if you're someone who leans more towards the crafting side than the exploring side, right? Because you can explore all the POIs, right, and take over all bases and stuff like that, and then you kind of in your mind go like, okay, the game's done because I've explored everything, right? But for some people, that's not how they play. They want to craft absolutely everything that's available, or make a giant base, or make several bases. One is just their siege base or something, and then the other it's their defense base. And I have a friend who's like that. He leans way more into the crafting side than he does the exploration side. And occasionally we butt heads because I'm on team hunting, exploring. He's on team crafting and building. And these type of games, you got to combine both of them. So the front was more or less like an experiment to me, right? In fact, I might have recorded a video about the front already. I'm not even sure. I have to go back and check. In that case, if this is true, then I would probably name this the front. I don't know, revisit it or some shit to let everyone know that this is the second time I'm speaking about this game. But so as far as the game goes, and I'll tell you like a story that relates to the, I guess, fun factor of this game, if I can remember, which I think I will, of an experience that me and my crafting friend had, and we were kind of going back and forth on. But it I know I've used this before to describe games because I never get super in depth, right? I feel like there's other people who can do that way better than I can. They can sit here and describe you the music, the composers of the music, the type of influences this game has gotten. I don't want to say stolen, but uh, they can go much more in depth on the developer, which honestly is Samar Studios is the name of this developer, and I'm not sure where they're based. Someone said the Philippines, but I think because there's a Samar Island there, but we don't even know for sure. I thought it was like Malaysia, but it's coming off to me like it's got like a Asian development team. But and maybe I'm completely wrong because the translation is awesome. It's very well. I didn't see any typos. Maybe I didn't look hard enough, or maybe I did, and it kind of just I didn't catch it. But exceptional explanation when it comes to crafting and building, and also descriptions. So I can't even say that it's completely foreign, although I got a strong feeling that it is. This one I've used this description in many games, right? Once because I'm not once before and once again because like I said, you can find it from better YouTubers than I. But this one is like a lot of games that I described, a pretty run-of-the-mill game, and I really mean that. And you can take that as an insult or not. It depends on who you are. I don't mean it as an insult, but it is a pretty standard, ordinary game. There's nothing about the front that stands out. Like you craft, you cut some trees down, you make a base. Eventually, you start to you know kill deer and rabbits to make to get fur, sorry, and then you can craft some sort of armor, leather armor, fur armor, and then eventually down the line you get the good shit like military grade armor and stuff like that. The story is a little weird. It's like you're a soldier that's from the future that's sent back to the past, and somehow you have to start again from banging rocks together like a caveman, and eventually from those rocks make a military grade base with military grade gear and military grade weaponry. It sounds outrageous, but welcome to the world of video games. It's not the most outrageous story I've heard. I The lore is kind of non-existent almost. Like it's more, since it's early access, to me it seems like they just drop you into the world and give you a little bit of lore, and then kind of just go like, all right, just go do your thing, go explore the POIs or make a giant base, do whatever you got to do. Whatever it does pretty well. One of my biggest complaints, as well as my crafting friend, is that it is grindy. This is a fucking phrase that I've hated for a long, long time. I've avoided that word grindy because I felt like it had a negative connotation to it, because it does. It's not a good thing to sit there and waste so much time on trying to just make this one thing where it could be a little more simplified. But like, I don't know how everyone else uses the word grindy. I guess it's like it's different to everyone. But I guess to someone else, when they say it's grindy, it's like it's taking too long for me to finish this game. I want to finish it quickly, and you're slowing me down. Right? For me, it's not so much like that. It's like you're making things that I'm trying to craft a little more complicated, and you are, they're a little more involved. Like you're putting in way more resources that I have to craft for this one item, and then not only to craft, once it breaks, which inevitably does in survival crafting games, I'll have to repair it, and once I repair it, it's like half the cost of actually making it. So I'm like, damn, that's pretty expensive. So you have to grind significantly in this game, and this is default settings. I'm pretty sure you can do some trickery and mess with the values and be able to get stuff much quicker, and which I'm sure my crafting friend is doing in his own little server that he probably made. He's, God knows what kind of wild tricks this man's doing, like exploits and console commands, and so whatever, man. As long as he's having fun. But point is, that's probably my biggest complaint, to be honest. And then it gets pretty boring quick, because it's not only is early access, there's a lot to do, and it's a huge map. The crafting system is pretty deep, worth $8 1,000%, especially now, right? I don't know what the MSRP is, but I know it's not that expensive neither, right? But one of the things that I'll tell you about is like, uh, okay, so typically when you play these type of games, or any game in general, right, you get some sort of a tutorial or task. You have to knock out these little, basically they're teaching you how to play the game and giving you like a quick rundown of the mechanics and stuff, right? So there'll be these boxes on whatever side of your screen it pops up, and it's like, okay, this is how you run, press shift, or this is how you walk forward, you press W, this is how you walk backwards, you press S. So it kind of starts off like that. Not that basic. It kind of goes like cut down some trees, or craft a stone axe. That's how it starts off. So I'm thinking, like with any other game, that eventually these tasks that they're telling you do, they'll kind of just leave you alone after you've done enough, and kind of go like, all right, the world is yours to explore. Now you can do whatever you want. That never fucking happens in the front. In the front, these tasks that you're doing, it continues. It never ends. Every single time you complete a few, like it'll be like, this is task 15 of 30. And you're like, oh, okay, so I only have 15 more because there's 30 in total. So then you complete the next one. Now you got 16, but then the number goes up higher. It goes, now it's 16 out of 47. And you're like, wait, you just added more? Every time you complete a task, that adds even more. And this shit is driving me crazy because we've been groomed to kind of just finish these tutorials or tasks, whatever you want to call them, and then just you can fuck off and then leave me to my own devices. And this is what I was trying to tell my crafting friend who was like arguing with me that he's like, that's how you play the game. You're supposed to do these tasks. And I'm like, yeah, but you're missing a giant point, right? Regardless if I'm supposed to do the tasks or not, it's boring. It's becoming like I'm just ticking boxes at this point. And not only that, I also told him that, like, whenever you finish these tasks, you get these little rewards, like these things called ether shards. I believe that's the name of them. And maybe some talent books. I'm not sure if you do, but you need talent books to level up your skills, right? And you also need these ether shards to level up your skills. You can get talent books and ether shards by just exploring the world and just taking over POIs, or, you know, fighting random people that spawn out in the streets and stuff. And you don't have to sit here and craft everything that task manager thing is telling you, but that's how he is trying to tell me that, like, that's what you do. That's You're just supposed to sit here and spend weeks upon weeks playing this game just crafting. Don't worry so much about exploring, just craft. And I'm like, no. Like, do you think that they put all of these POIs on the map, all of this weaponry, all of these bullets? Do you think they did that just so you could sit at base for weeks upon weeks of just crafting? No, you have to explore. And then it occurred to me that, like, I stopped looking at that task manager thing as a, like, oh, I'm knocking this out so it can go away, for that box can finally leave and I'll be left to do my own thing. I stopped looking at it like that. It's more like it's rewarding you for crafting something the first time. But the thing is, like, let's say I can craft I don't know, there's this thing called a beast trap. I think that's the last thing I left off in. And I'm trying to tell him, I'm like, look, I can craft this beast trap, right? And get the rewards for crafting it, the ether shard, or the talent book or whatever. But the thing is, I don't want to craft the beast trap because I'm not gonna fucking use it. I want to waste my resources on something I'm actually gonna use. But he's like, you should craft the beast trap anyway to get the rewards, and then you can just put it away. And I'm like, no, because it's just going to sit there and take up space because I don't intend on using it. I don't plan to make any of that. For the most part, I'm going to be running around exploring POIs and stuff. And in this case, we've butted heads on issues like this before because, like I said, he's super crafting heavy and I'm not, So naturally, we're gonna not see eye to eye. But luckily, in this case, one of my other friends got sick of the game before I did, and she kind of was like, "I'm turning this task tracker shit off," and she did, and he got upset, right? So he started getting mad at her, not like disrespectful or anything or yelling. It was just, he started to get irked. He was just like, "But you're supposed to do the task tracker. I don't know why you shut it off." And then the next day, I mind you, this was I was at work, I believe, and she was telling me about it. She was like, "Hey, yeah, kind of upset because I turned off the task tracker." And I was like, "Dude, I thought about that. This task tracker is like driving me crazy. Like, it'll never end. And also, there's a lot of shit that it's telling me to craft that I don't intend on using." So the next day, I tell him, I was like, look, he asked me a question and he was like, "Where are you at now?" And I was like, "I don't know where I'm at in the task tracker." He was like, "How don't you know?" I said, "Because I turned it off." Oh man. So then he let me have it, and yeah, it was annoying, but I stood there and I stood my ground, and I was like, yeah, he's trying to explain to me and give me these long-winded explanations on why I should leave it, and that's the way the game is, and why am I playing a crafting game if I don't want to craft? And I'm like, but that's not fair because I did craft. When I first bought this game, I spent maybe the first, man, 3, 4, 5 days crafting. That's all I basically did. 90% of my time was crafting. I made a house. I made workbenches. I made all sorts of weapons. I went out and I hunted. I hunted for materials. I chopped down trees for materials. I spent days. So it's not a fair assessment to go like, oh, you don't want to craft, but I did. That's the thing. And I was trying to explain to him, like, where's the limit? There has to be a limit, right? We can't spend 90% of the time crafting and 10% of the time exploring. Because whenever we do explore, which we did a few times, me, him, and my other friends, we went out in this little vehicle that I don't know if he made or he found in the world, and we took over some POIs, and he was having a blast. He enjoys it as much as he fights and argues with you. He loves taking over POIs. He was having fun, And then, but the thing is, he doesn't want to do it for long. He'll do it once or twice, and then 30 minutes later, he's just like, "All right, let's head back to base." I'm like, "No, let's like we were having fun here. Let's keep this going." Unfortunately, with this game, it's so grind heavy, so resource intensive that you do have to go back to base to craft bullets and stuff because enemies don't drop bullets and they don't keep the voyage. They don't refuel the voyage, meaning that like if they dropped pieces of armor or weaponry or bullets, then you could just grab that and just keep going. You go, hey man, I got enough food on me, I got enough water on me, I got enough bullets on me from these guys that we murdered. We can just move from this point to the next point. But no, they don't give you shit. I mean, they'll give you like ether shards and those talent books and maybe some food, a couple blueprints here and there, a lot of blueprints, most of them just, just upgraded versions of like a stone floor or a wooden door. And I'm like, I'm not gonna do much with that. Even him, he found those the crafting guy find those pretty useless. So you don't get actual. There's nothing to sustain the voyage, so you have to go back to base, regroup, start crafting and knocking trees down again, and resourcing and finding resources and mining, and then taking that ore and making bullets, and so it all becomes like a little taxing. And like I said, luckily in this particular case, playing this game, I've had a friend who got tired of the game before I did, and I was like, good, because that's the way I'm feeling too. And then my other friend, it's usually four of us that play. So two, me and her already kind of were already fed up. And the third one kind of just goes with the flow. And him, he just wants to craft like crazy. Um, as of this moment, I made a server actually. I bought one or I rented one in Gportal. I believe that. Yeah, that's the name of the site. I don't know why I forgot that. I use that regularly. So yeah, I rented a 30-day server for like $7. It was a hell of a deal, and it was cheap. I could host it on my computer, but my computer is not the beefiest. I got like a lower mid-tier computer, so it's not I shouldn't be running a server on this thing. It's gonna fucking nuke my apartment. So all in all though, the game's fun, and I don't know if I want to jump back. I still got a few weeks left on the server, and I didn't hate the game, don't get me wrong. It's just it is still in early access, so they're still figuring out the kinks to combat. That's one thing that I need to harp on, which is something that I love in games. Is one of the main things I look for in games. Like is super simplistic. The animations, the gun animations and the sounds and the design, they're pretty damn good. I'm not gonna lie, they're pretty damn good. Definitely above average. But the gunplay and the shooting, there's no real cover. There's no leaning. There's no type of system. It's kind of just like you gotta, and not only that, the AI is super sharp with their shooting, so they're like laser beam you. And it's like there's no real way. It's kind of like you got to kill them before they kill you. You kind of got to just hope that you have better armor. And I, that's kind of leaving a lot to RNG, which I'm not comfortable with. I would like to at least have something that would cover that would protect me, some sort of a tactic. Like I said, either covering and then leaning out and shooting, or maybe some sort of a shield, or I don't know. Maybe you can craft that in a later game, which by the way, I'm nowhere near the late game, but from what I see online, it looks pretty fucking cool. You get to craft tanks and all sorts of space age weaponry and gear, which I'm pretty sure it's worth it if you want to have the most maximum fun, is to get everything that you need, do everything that you need to do in order to progress to the end game, so you can see what this game's really all about. I don't know. I don't have a lot bad to say about it. The worst thing is that it's pretty mid. That's what the kids say. I never thought a 40-year-old man would say that word, but it is. It is. It is in the mediocre side, but I'm okay with waiting to see what they got. I can tell you this for a fact. This is the one straight up positive thing I'll say about it. For a game that's only been in early access for a year and a few months, it's got a lot fucking going for it. A lot going for it. Now, this is something I didn't speak about before, but now that I think about it, this is my second complaint. My second complaint, optimization. This game does not run that well. Now, I noticed that this is my second time playing this game, so I'm pretty sure this is my second time making a video about it, and I'm not aware. I'm just realizing now. Sorry about that if it causes confusion for making two videos of the same game. But when I first played this game before, maybe a year or two ago, about a year ago, I probably played this game when it came out. It was just out maybe a month or two. I remember playing it then, and I didn't think it was bad. We didn't play it for long. Me and my friend, it was just two of us, and we played it for maybe 3, 4 days, and we kind of just, moved on to something else. But I remember thinking like, this is a game that whenever I saw it pop up in my library, I would always go like, this isn't a bad game. I wonder how much is cooked since then. And so, and the answer is cooked a lot, and there's a lot going on for it, and the crafting system is pretty fucking deep and complex. So you can make a lot of shit. And this game will keep you busy for quite a while, especially if you're a big crafting guy, and also even if you're an exploration guy, But just be prepared for very simplistic combat. It's not that satisfying. It gets a little stale, but all in all, it's yeah. I can't express how much this game is worth, especially if it's only $8. Uh Damn, I'm getting a call. This has been fucking crazy little podcast. All right, so I'm back. It's been fucking. I don't think I've cut and came back so many times in one little podcast since today. It's been pretty. It hasn't been hectic, man. That's how you know your life ain't so crazy, right? It's like, oh, my podcast got interrupted 3 times today. Ooh, it's wacky, wacky day. It's anarchy. But get the game, especially now. You've got till January. I don't know when. I don't know when that fucking sale ends. January 5th or 6th or something like that. And you know, too long didn't read. I'll give it to you now. If you like crafting survival games, you'll like this one, and the price makes it even more enticing, right? But you have to come in with the mentality that the game's over. It's only a year and some change old, and it's still a work in progress. But for what it has, the optimization issues aside, which is that's something that I didn't really touch on before, as far as I'm concerned. Maybe I did. I don't remember. I've been getting interrupted, but when I created a dedicated server and I ran it on my computer and I played it the first time I played the front with some friends, and it was fucking rough. It was super 30 frames per second, even though it should be locked at 60. It was like 40, and 30. They were just dipping, a lot of lag and a lot of rubber banding, right? So I kind of attributed that poor performance to the fact that it was running on my computer. Now that I rented a server from Gporter, it runs so much better. But it's also been like about a year later since I played this game, so there's been optimization patches and updates and stuff. So I'm sure that plays into the much better performance now than before. Optimization issues aside, the high cost of crafting things and the fact that enemies don't really drop any type of ammo or anything like that make this game uh, a little rough. But those are the biggest complaints. The rest is pretty damn good. Giant world, different climates, deep crafting system, hunger mechanics, if that's your thing. Obviously, if you're playing a crafting game, it should be. I will mention this is something I didn't get to touch on a lot, which I fucking should have, but I'm terrible at this. Is that it does have a PVE mode, right? There is a PVE mode that just came out not so long ago, and I tried this mode and I didn't like it. It's pretty rough, right? It's like I like the combat better because I don't know. I feel like when you hit things, it feels better. There's also zombies involved for some reason. They just threw zombies in there, and I guess this is why it's more closer to, or at least they they tried to make it more like 7 Days to Die. They added like a dodging system, blocking system, because I don't even think you can block in the standard edition or mode, which is weird, right? Like you should be able to block if you're doing like especially a melee build or something, which I'm not even sure if you can in this game, but whatever. Um, yeah, there is a PvE mode. We tried it, and we got up to like the first boss, which was like a clown. Which once again, like, dude, look, some people will be totally fine with, or even excited or jazzed about the fact that there's a clown that you fight. But I was just sitting there like, what am I, like 13? Like, I'm fighting a zombie clown. Whoa! I don't know. Just it doesn't make sense because the game is supposed to be kind of this semi-serious semi-serious game where it's like you're on a straight mission, you're a future soldier, this and that, and then they introduce a whole mode where you're fighting zombies and clowns and stuff. And I get it, other games did it too, and it was still fun. Like Red Dead Redemption, pretty fucking serious game, almost like a historical piece or some shit. That game should be in a museum. But and then they added the Undead Nightmare where John Marston was like a zombie. He came back from the dead and he was shooting stuff. And that was an awesome mode. I had a lot of fun with that. But point is, I get it. I guess you can't. It doesn't take itself super serious where it can't have a fun mode like that. But the fighting the clown, for example, it felt stiff. He did the same animations over and over. You did a lot of like dodging and hitting and stuff like that. And he's pretty tanky. You need to have a nice amount of people on the server in order to kill him. Or maybe it kind of just its health kind of adjusts to the amount of people that there are on the server. Some games do that. I'm not sure if this one does. So there's two separate modes, standard and PvE. Like just if you do PvE, it has a lot of the standard stuff, but it's a different route on getting them, and it's just like it's rough. And once again, since it's trying to be like 7 Days to Die, it makes me think of 7 Days to Die, but I'm also trying to be fair and not comparing the two, considering one has been around longer and has been worked on much longer than the front. But I got a feeling they're going to keep tweaking things, and I hope that they tweak the animations and so forth and so on. There's a lot. There's a lot of content for $8. Like there's so much to play, and just go in there knowing that it's not. You're not gonna get the most highest amount of fun, but for $8, I can't stress it enough. I know I've said that like 50 times already, but like for $8, dude, what the fuck? Like you can't beat it, you know? If you play the game for 8 hours and you spend $8 on it, that's that's how I feel like that's how I get my bang from my buck. I follow the dollar per hour. I've said this before, which is like as whatever I paid for it, as long as I played the amount of hours that I paid for the game, I'm fine. If the game costs $60 and I played for 60 hours, I got my money's worth. If the game costs $8 and I played for 8 hours, I got my money's worth. So that's my rule. And this game would, oh my God, it'll give you way more than 8 hours worth of content and fun. So, I mean, I would like to see. I hope it continues. I hope it gets enough of it. Right now, it's mixed reviews on Steam, which is not the greatest, but like that can change, And if they continue on this path, then I feel like this is going to be a very noticeable game in the survival genre. It's just right now it's still early, but there's still a lot of content. So, it is a little stiff. It's a little stale. I would give it. I'm gonna say maybe a 6.5 out of 10, possibly a 7. 7 can be said, but I would say like 6.5 is definitely above average, but not by much. Not by much. And once again, that can change, and I would love for it to change because this is a game that I would love to revisit again a year or two from now. I don't think I'm going to until a year or two from now, but it is something that's going to be on in my library, and occasionally I will look at the updates to see what kind of cool shit they added or whatever. All right, I'm out of here before I get interrupted. See you guys next time.